Hi, everybody. Very special episode on the Remote Care Services Show. You've got to see a little bit about Thea's incredible brain and her mind. I think you'll get to see more about her soul and her heart and the way she's working things for the profession in this episode. So stay tuned for this one. And we're really looking forward to hopefully connecting with a lot of you guys on a deeper level. We'll play the reel. It has a real WWE kind of feel, and then we'll really break it down and settle into your hearts. Talk to you soon. So Thea, you put it on the board as the next one that was coming up. You and I talked about it previously, but really your journey from homeless to entrepreneur, is the title of this episode. And the floor is yours, my sister.
All right. Thank you, sir. Never in my wildest dreams did I find myself or ever think of myself as ever having the need to be homeless, or, have to experience homelessness. But, growing up in a blue collared family, I mean, we didn't have a lot, but we had enough. And that was an amazing opportunity and got me through pharmacy school that way. And looking at the other side of it, when I look back on all things that kind of set me up to go to pharmacy school, I was always the person that was goal oriented from a very early age. And so it was very, known to my mom for sure that I would move along. I would go down the path of a survivor and go through pharmacy school, which is hard. It's not for everyone, and do the thing. And my mom had this motto of, if it were easy, everyone would do it, kind of thing. And she would tell me this at 2 a.m. When I'm calling her because I'm not sleeping and I have a big test tomorrow and all of these things. And I would scream at her and tell her I was going to be a Walmart greeter. And she would say, yeah, if this was easy, everyone would do it. Now, close your book, go to bed. And she would hang up on me every time. Like I did it 3 or 4 times. And by the 4th time, I was like, okay, I'm stopping to call you. I'll call somebody that I'm going to get sympathy from because that's not my mom. But, looking at all of the things that you do to get through pharmacy school, and the setup to pharmacy school was amazing. I was a typical kid in the 80s and 90s doing my thing. And my dad was pretty absent from my life for a long time with regards to, he drove truck. So he went cross country to Colorado every week. And he wasn't home. And so I didn't have that model to emulate of a fairy tale. My mom was basically the parent for mom and dad, for my life. And so when I look at, moving forward after pharmacy school and what that all looked like, I was like, okay, I found my dad. And so back up a minute. I've been married 3 times. This is the 3rd wedding and 3rd husband that I've had. But I have to go back and say, I found my dad in every one of them. Like I found my dad in the first one. He was not nice to me. He cheated on me, a lot of abuse, like from a mental standpoint, that kind of stuff. And he cheated and I was done. I was like, that was while I was going to pharmacy school. And so the second one, he was like, he just lied his face off. He told me promises, empty promises. And that was my dad, like my whole life. Oh yeah, I'll be there. And then he was driving across country. He couldn't have been there, like that kind of thing. So it was after number 2 that I figured out that I was like, okay, what is going on? So hindsight's 2020. And I picked my dad in both of those people. And but the thing about that all is, I was always the kid that went from one group to another. I was the chameleon of the friend group, right? Because I wasn't ever in one friend group. I adapted to the next friend group all through like high school, college, all of it. And that gave me the power to really blend in with my environment, whether it was good or bad. First husband, not so good. Second husband, not so good. But I blended in. I learned a lot from them. I learned gritty lessons. I learned great tasks. Like I could be a farmer and I can put out a fire and run a fire truck and know how to sling a car for a tow truck driver. But I mean, all of those things were like learning abilities, and that's what the grit comes from. And so when I went through the second marriage, by this point I had 2 kids to the second husband. And I tell you all of this because it really proves that, you're in a situation that you may not have control of. I could not control a husband who lied. Like there was nothing I could do to make that work. As hard as I tried, as much as I grinded it out, like there was just nothing. And it was to the point where I thought maybe a second baby would help, and that didn't help. And so I'm like, now I'm with 2 kids. And this is when I found myself between jobs. And what I was doing at that point was remote MTM stuff and for Medicare Part D programs. And I did that for 3 years, and it kind of dried up and went to outcomes at that time. And so really found myself without a job, found myself with a failing marriage because I couldn't fix the lying environment that I found myself in. So I ended up having to leave. We had a 100-acre farm, beef cows, put in hay, all of it. We had to leave 100 acres behind me. I took 2 kids, 3 bags, and a truck that was a mega cab Dodge diesel thing that I like struggled to even get my kids in because I'm not very big, but like here I am driving this big old truck, stick shift diesel. I'm like, oh, for the love of Pete. But you know, you put your name on things and you never think that it's going to have to be split up someday. And so here I am driving this big truck, and you know, I found myself without a job, and it all kind of came to a head of, you know, what is the environment we're finding ourselves in? You know, like it was over my own choices, you know, and some of theirs, you know, where I found myself. Some of it was collateral damage. Some of it was just trying to survive and make their next right choice for me, for my kids, for the situation, for my career. And so I ended up not having a place to go. Like we ended up landing on my mom's floor, and I stayed there. That was February of 15. So we're talking 8 years ago, really. And in that time, there weren't very many pharmacist jobs because the market was kind of, there were no big sign-on bonuses. There was no like opportunities local to me. There were 2 opportunities local to me. One was retail, which I didn't want to do again because I had already done that. And the other was the hospital position. It was a staff position. And I was like, well, I've never done hospital, but I'm going to give it a try. And so it really found myself in a transition period of, you know, how do I keep going? How do I like keep moving through an environment of change? And it came back to the grit that I learned from being that person of learning all the time, the lessons that are shown to me every day. And the grit of, I don't want to get out of bed. My heart is broken. My life is a mess. My kids are watching, but you have to get up and do it. And so that grit had kind of driven me into the hospital position. So that was February of 15. I left the farm. By April, I had a job, but in between, no money coming in, no, nothing, homeless, like no money at all. And so for the love of my mom, like she would do anything for me and my kids, but she doesn't have a lot. And so it was really like literally mattress on the floor, 3 kids, or me and 2 kids in a queen size bed. And that's how we lived. Like for a while. And throughout the transition of getting the hospital job, and then by August, I was able to get stand back up on my own. Like there were lots of debt and different things that I had to get through, but I was able to stand back up and bought my own house and did my own thing for a while. And you know, it was through that perseverance of the kids are watching kind of thing that I did the next thing. Because again, I was so broken, I didn't want to move. Like my mom's like, okay, Thea, day 3 of no shower, you go, like get out of bed and go get a shower. And, you know, it's interesting that, you know, I can correlate this to the changes that we're having in the environment today. They're outside of our control. You can't really, you got to have the grit to get through the changes that are happening even in the country post-pandemic, and looking at facing a recession ahead of us. Banks are closing, like all of these things that are like outside of our control. And it comes to the part of being gritty. And getting, and not being afraid to start again or start something new in this time, because you just don't know how it's going to end. In my life in February of 2015, I would have never guessed that I would ever be anything but a staff pharmacist at a hospital. And I was going to be okay with that. But I can tell you today, I wasn't okay with that 5 years ago. I started the business because I was like, okay, this is great. I've stood up, I've done the thing. And got back on my feet, but I'm still not fulfilled. Like, how does that work? You know, like, this is amazing. They gave me an opportunity to stand back up on my own. Like, I'm so grateful for that. Humility and gratefulness was shown to me throughout that process, because I just couldn't have done it without, I couldn't have done and built what I have today without knowing where I came from and knowing that I could do it, right? Like, I didn't have a cheerleader. Well, I had my mom, but I didn't have a cheerleader in my corner saying everything's going to be okay, or I don't know, fairy godmother, maybe. Like, I didn't have somebody telling me, you know, that that was going to work out. And so, you know, I think that when I look at what has really taken me from homeless to an entrepreneur is the grit, the life learning lessons, and the being able to adapt to the environment that's in front of us today. I think a lot of folks will like the fact of, yeah, big box store is here to stay. I mean, it just is. And, you know, it's secure for most people, but are you fulfilled? Are you there doing the thing because you care that much to meet a metric, like the volume metric? You know, is this an opportunity to show some grit and learn a new hobby or side hustle or a new service line for your pharmacy if you're a pharmacy owner or a pharmacist in an independent, and really gain that grit, because the environment is changing and we're going to have no control over it. So we can either embrace it or we can go hide and stay in bed for 3 days. Like, it really just comes down to being able to adapt. And I feel like I'm going to just plug all of RPH right now, RPH Ally right now, is because we're here showing up for pharmacists like myself. That's exactly what I found. Is I found an opportunity when I was homeless to not be homeless anymore and really grow through that period. Now, did I have lots of counseling? Oh boy, I sure did. Like, but I got through it, and putting one foot in front of the other and having those people beside me to help me through that is an amazing opportunity. And you know, the hospital was that for me. You know, having them take the chance on hiring a retail-based pharmacist for their clinical position was a huge risk for them. But I say that's why I'm still at the hospital too, is because they gave me the humbleness and the gratefulness of having that job when I needed it the most. And so leaving a legacy with the hospital and building the program for them and watching this success is so humbling to me, and is worth its weight in gold to me, to be able to continue to grow and leave that legacy there, because they did help me so much. And I know that I needed those people. And I know I want to be a person like that, to give it to someone else, to do helpful things for someone else to stand up on their feet and do this again, or start the side hustle that they want.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that is a tough one to talk after there, Thea. In any way, shape, or form, like, it's just such an inspiration. Like, everything that you've been through, the way you've mentally grasped like your path and taken it and made it into such a positive kind of forward motion is it's truly inspiring. I mean, I know that we're seeing a lot of things on LinkedIn right now, Thea, from people that they feel like their worlds are collapsing because they didn't match right for that residency right now.
Right. Even that. Yeah.
And you've got an incredible backstory to be able to tell them, like, life can send you in all kinds of directions and do all kinds of things as you're going along. Being able to piece those things all together and then be able to look at the opportunities that are ahead of you, or that you can take, you know, the next steps in. So for example, Thea, like I just saw pictures of your beautiful family going on a vacation, you know, all together. And like, that to me is just, it's incredible, you know, going through some of the brokenness, you know, over that period of time, and then being able to piece those things all together personally, professionally, to make this for yourself. I mean, when you're looking at champions, like people to be in your corner, people to root for you, people that have been there, it's really nice to have a sister like you across the Rockies that has that, you know, that has that kind of feel and grit behind her. And I think you just really echoed something that our profession needs. Like, right now, and you know, no doomsday kind of things out there, even though I will do some of those posts just for fun, really, because I think there's a ton of opportunity. You know, the silver lining is massive for us when we look at all the opportunities of banding together, finding our strengths, finding our passions. Like you said, you know, you can find an opportunity, but that doesn't mean it's something you really want to seek. But finding those things and then being able to propel your career kind of forward, you know, utilizing some mentors and folks that are giving you opportunities along the way, to take advantage of. And so you weave that together in an incredible way. And I hope, my sincere like hope and prayer is that someone watching this and going through similar situation, or going through those kinds of struggles can look at you as a person to connect with, a person to be inspired by, a person that sees that their hopes and dreams and what they want out of their life are still attainable and possible, and they can go after those. So thank you so much for your really heartfelt testimonial on what you've been through, and what you're inspired to be able to help others recognize that they can do. They can do amazing, exciting things in our profession. And you're blazing an incredible trail when it comes to everything in the remote care services, remote pharmacy services world for us. So very thankful for you.
Yeah, thanks so much. And if this reaches someone that needs assistance or just needs a friend to listen to, LinkedIn is my place. That's where I am, plus RPH Ally, to really connect with me, because I know I couldn't have done what I've done without the people in my corner. So, and sometimes you just don't have a lot of those. So no judgment zone here, and just here to support and mentor and grow the future of pharmacy, the next chapter.
Amazing. And if you want to meet Thea in person, which I am super excited to finally be able to give you a hug in person,
Yay!
we will be in Cincinnati in May, and Thea is one of the speakers. So, she's amazing. Come over and listen to her there, and we'll plug some of that stuff for Healers in Healthcare is the conference that's
Christina
really
Fontana's event. I'm excited to feel that in person.
Oh, that'll be so fun. Well, everybody, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll catch you next week for the Remote Care Services Show.
Take care.